Good morning and welcome to the Cloud Communications panel discussion hosted by intlx Solutions and Intermedia. This morning we have the pleasure of hearing from Alan Manuel, intlx Solutions Senior Solutions Architect, and Eli Navarro, Intermedia Sales Enablement Manager. This discussion will be recorded, so all participants have been muted. We encourage you to submit your questions in the chat and we'll allocate time at the end to address them. But before we dive into the questions, I'm going to give each of you a minute to introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of background on your expertise. Alan, we'll start with you.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alan Manuel with intlx Solutions. I am a senior solutions engineer, and I have been working on the partner side for 25 plus years in telephony, unified communications, contact center, and focused on cloud-driven technologies and solutions. Over the last 3, 4, 5 years, as it's becoming more and more popular. So, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Alan. My name is Elijah Navarro. I work at Intermedia, and so intlx and us are partners. And so my time in the voice space and the PBX space dates back 15 years or so with Verizon. These days with Intermedia, I've been there for 7 or so years and have held various roles in the sales org. Today, though, I manage our global training effort for our reseller channel. So that's partners in my language, like intlx, and teaming up to bring together some useful conversations and some good discussions so that we can make better, more informed decisions for our business. So happy to be here, and thanks for joining today.
Thank you both. Alan, we'll start with you, and then Eli, you can follow up.
Okay.
The first question is, what types of businesses and organizations could benefit from moving to the cloud?
Okay, yes, good question. So from the partner side, we are really hearing from all types of industries and verticals now, which is really, a bit of a change over the last few years. We're now hearing and have an uptick from healthcare organizations and manufacturing, places that have traditionally been, very, happy to stick in the on-premise world. So we're seeing a lot from that, also from state, local, education, that type of thing. So we're hearing from everyone now. There's a lot of interest in, moving to the cloud solution with their next unified communication decision. I think several things are driving that. There's been a lot of recent news from, common on-premise manufacturers like NEC, ShoreTel announcing, end of life and end of support on their platforms. So people, I think, are realizing that their next move, has to be toward a cloud-based services because, frankly, the choices for on-prem are becoming fewer and fewer. And then I think second, people are just working differently now than they did before. Most of us don't communicate as we used to with a desk phone, just a one-to-one call to another person. Most folks are now collaborating through a conferencing tool or a soft phone application, something that can follow you where you go. So I think all organizations, small, medium, large, are realizing that, and they are factoring, a cloud service, like Intermedia, into their next business decision.
Right on. If I may add just a pinch to that. So that's spot on, Alan, and you hit on a lot of really great points. To piggyback off of that, as far as Intermedia is concerned, for any business that's serious about improving the internal experience for their employees and how they collaborate and the methods of communication that they use to do that, we see, for instance, a lot of the younger folks coming into the workplace, they almost always want to be chatting, right, instead of on a phone call. So that definitely is most businesses, right? We got internal folks that need to collaborate better. But then there's also the need to satisfy customers and external inquiries to the business. And so how do we maximize the output of each employee by giving them the ability to collaborate, communicate internally with coworkers, but then swivel chair quickly to those external engagements as well. So both businesses have both of those groups to serve, and to do it the best, right? The intlx Elevate Unified Communication solution puts that all in one place. And so that's a big deal. Cloud is the driver for facilitating these types of platforms. And so the short story is any business that needs to do the internal and external thing better can benefit from the cloud.
Thank you, guys. For the second discussion point, what are some of the advantages of moving to the cloud? Eli, if you want to start that one.
Yeah, sure. So Alan said a lot of great things just a moment ago. One of those things I'll cherry pick is that he rightly said many providers in the on-premise phone system world, right? That's the physical hardware, the technology rooms and the rest of it. That stuff, those providers are going away in droves. We've seen the recent announcement from Goliaths on the on-premise world, like NEC, for example, as Alan rightly mentioned. And so these are leading indicators that, man, the on-premise environment is becoming less and less valuable more and more over time. And so the further challenge and more of the data driven conversation we see around the lack that the on-premise solutions are providing today, we see 6 real challenges with the on-premise or the legacy phone system, as we put it. For many of the reasons Alan said, I'm going to give you 6 of the main ones that we see in the data. And so, number one, it costs more than you think, right? You installed that physical equipment some time ago, right? It's quote unquote paid off. It doesn't owe us any money. We've advertised that cost, right? We've heard it all. The challenge is it generally costs businesses more than we think. There's phone line costs, there's maintenance costs, you have hardware upgrades, the third-party technicians you're paying to help manage and maintain, and no one's really calculating the cost of that system going down in most cases, right? So it costs more than you think, for sure. There's a lot of hidden costs. It's a depreciating asset is the second big problem we see. So just like that brand new car, when you drive it off the lot, it almost immediately starts depreciating. Additionally, cloud, especially the intlx Elevate UC cloud, it's getting better with time. So what you buy today, what you spend today, is what you spend tomorrow, despite the system, despite the platform constantly being upgraded, every 2 or 3 weeks at this point. So you're not going to get nickel and dimed like you would on the on-premise phone system to update, upgrade, and make simple changes and moves. So it's a depreciating asset. Cloud gets better with time. The third is that the on-premise solutions, the legacy systems, are generally voice only or very much voice centric. And so as businesses find the need to compete more and more fiercely, they realize that by broadening the communication channels, they can, number one, accommodate their staff better because the staff can work in a more flexible environment. But then also, when businesses move to the cloud, they realize that they give better pathways for their customers to get to their business, right? Especially as we look at the technology that, let's say, the broad generation gaps prefer. Phone over chat, for example. So that's 3. It's voice only, right? 4 is it doesn't allow productivity outside of the workplace. So what are your employees doing today? Does everybody report to the brick and mortar, to the building? Do you have people that are distributed? What does your environment look like? We see a lot in the way of hybrid. And so, right, some people here, some people home in the field. So how are we going to accommodate and maintain the pace of business, all those folks, regardless of where they are? On-premise legacy phone systems definitely limit you in that capacity because, well, you're almost handcuffed to the building, right? So 4 is it doesn't allow productivity outside of the workplace. The 5 and 6 here are kind of tied together, but it doesn't allow for a great customer experience, right? So, right, phone calls, a knock on the door, for sure still happen, but what other ways do people want to engage with your business? We know that 1 in 5 buyers today is a millennial. In the next 2 years' time, 2 in 5 buyers will be a millennial. And so, do you have the right technology that's going to meet your buyers where they are at? And then finally, number 6 is that these systems will not get the newest technology, like artificial intelligence and whatever's blossoming as a result of AI. And so AI will live predominantly, if not almost entirely, in the cloud. And so those 6 reasons we find as the most compelling reasons for why we need to move from the on-premise environment into the cloud space. And of course, the Elevate UC cloud by intlx is just a fantastic up level for your business.
Uh, Very good, Eli. Thank you for that. That was great. I'll add a couple of things, Carly, that I've seen from the partner side. So because intellects, we do support still a fair amount of customers that have on-premise systems, and I think one of the things I see, to implement and upgrade those systems, that is expensive, right? And from the minute that you put that system in, it's out of date, a lot of times, or it's already started its cycle of being out of date. So, and it's disruptive to do those upgrades to the business. Um, and there's also, I think, a lack of expertise now for on-prem that's difficult to find. IT staffs are focused on other things. The telecom of old is sort of a legacy technology now, and to find people that are still doing that, even partners, is tough. And maintenance contracts are more expensive. So I see that a lot as a good reason, to move to cloud. A lot of times for redundancy, business continuity, we're having to an on-premise environment. We have to build it out a second time at another data center, and that's something. If you move to a cloud-based solution, you have that redundancy and business continuity out of the gate. So there's no disruption there from doing implementations and upgrades. Um, and as Eli mentioned, the hybrid work aspect, the ability to now have all these uh, tools at your disposal that were very difficult to build out with an on-premise system. It's tough to extend an on-premise system beyond the customer's LAN out into the so that you can work from anywhere and on any device. It's a tough thing to do. But if you move to a cloud service, those things just work out of the box. That's a nice thing to have. Um, the last thing I'll mention are the integrations and sort of some of the call center functionality. A lot of these platforms come with out of the box call center basic functionality that are just part of it, and or you can grow into a more advanced contact center that they offer. So that type of thing is nice. And then integrations to other business applications that you're using, CRMs, that kind of thing, screen pop, click to call. Those are types of things that are nice to have with the cloud solutions.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
The next topic is, what features do cloud communication solutions have to remain compliant? Whether you're in healthcare, legal field, finance.
Hmm.
Eli, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. So look, in this respect, not all cloud solutions are created equal. And so if you're in a compliant industry, an industry that's highly regulated, Carly mentioned some of those off the top of her head: healthcare, legal, finance, right, insurance, and some others. For sure, the solution has to meet the minimum requirements. So FINRA compliance, SEC compliance, for example, in the finance world, check. The solution, of course, checks those boxes. Same is true in healthcare with HIPAA compliance and um, the actions around protecting private information, healthcare records in this example. Um, so those are just some of the ones. The others are like PCI compliance. If you're taking payments and you need to do that in a secure environment, for sure, cloud-based solutions allow you to do that best. However, we need to make sure that the solution itself is meeting the requirements for compliance the same way that your internal employees are behaving in a compliant manner. So these two in concert is a very powerful thing, especially in the way of compliance. Now, to take that further, a lot of the compliance comes around how the data, that communication data, is stored and archived. And so the archiving capability that comes with the Elevate solution, for example, there's a rolling 30 days that comes with each license, but we're really looking for what retention period makes the best sense for your business. And if you're in a regulated industry, well, that's going to be dictated to you, right? So 7 years, 10 years retention period, for example. And so when you're thinking about that data, right, that's your information warehouse, so to speak, around all of your communication data, which will be archived, whether you're just focusing on internal employee collaboration or even that with your customers. How do I put all that in one place securely, allow myself the ability, to search against it and use that intelligence? But the key here is that data is encrypted both in transit and at rest. This is really important for those of you in the compliant industries. And so if you're hearing this and you're in one of those industries, you're probably all nods, and rightfully so, because this is a really, really important piece of it. And the last thing your business needs is, right, an audit or a failed audit and fines and penalties and the rest of it. And so those compliance and those regulatory bodies acknowledge this product as green lighted for the requirements that those regulatory bodies need out of your business. So that's a big deal. And again, all cloud providers are not created equal in this respect. Alan, anything to add to that?
No, that was great. I think I don't have anything to add to that one.
Okay,
Okay.
right on.
Moving on,
Mhm.
what is most important to executives who are looking to move to the cloud?
I
I
can.
got some thoughts
I
on
don't
this.
know.
Alan, you want to take it first?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a first stab at it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
one thing for executives is overall employee productivity. I think the unified communication cloud solutions, they can work as part of your workflow today. So you're sort of living in those systems, not just for phone and voice, but for your meetings. You have the ability to record meetings, so that if you can't make, an attendee can't make it, they can follow up and watch that meeting recording, chat, SMS, those things. So I think there's a for an executive, there's a visible employee productivity factor that they can see every day, and it also gives that employee, from a work life perspective, the ability to do the same thing in the office that if they work at home that day they can do. So for their lifestyle that a lot of people like now, where they're hybrid, right? They can avoid commute times. It gives them
Oh
that
yeah.
same experience, and that's something that when executives are going out and they're hiring new talent and different things like that, I think it's an important factor. Um,
Hmm.
and I think the other thing I'll add before I'll kick it to Eli, the IT teams, IT is very they're busy with so many things now, security, network, wireless, that kind of thing, and they can reduce their focus on telecom, an area that they don't have to have as much expertise on, by relying on a cloud service to provide that for them. So I'll
Yeah,
kick it over to Eli
that's
now.
right. Right on. Thanks, Alan. That's dead on. I would add to your point about the hiring piece. So, look, executives are looking to manage the salary expense of a business because this is as we know, right? These are classified liabilities for a business. And so, as an executive, I'm saying, how do I hire great talent at a discount? For sure, the right unified communication solution will help you do that because you can hire in lower cost geographies. You can, right, accommodate the younger folks in the workforce who historically come at a bargain as long as they're given a little work life flexibility, as Alan mentioned, which is right on. The other big piece for executives is the visibility into the employee productivity, but really the reporting and analytics that come as a consequence of having that visibility. So as a manager, as a director, as an executive, right, I want to know what is the actual output to the metrics, the KPIs that we're measuring against, and are we hitting it? And do I want a real time dynamic, wall board, let's say, that I can follow as a manager to see how well my teams are doing right now in real time? That could be also done you know, you know, as a post-mortem retroactively. Hey, let me output this report. And now I can take follow-up action. That's a huge deal. And of course, executives at all levels, I mean, I would just say upper management at all levels, everyone's telling the story up the ladder. And so having great reporting and analytics helps us to inform that story and then fly it up the flagpole to executive leadership ultimately. So those are definitely some of the reasons we see the executive folks really gravitating towards cloud-based solutions.
Okay, well, those were the questions that we had. I do see a few were submitted, but do you guys have anything in closing before I ask you a couple more?
I think
No.
I think just one last point to that, Carly. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the employee productivity piece, we want to make sure that right each employee is equipped with the tools to be successful. And so when we distribute licenses to each user of the businesses, the executives are happy because now they have the ability to impact the work culture too, despite being remote and some people being disparate or in different places. And so as an executive, the culture of my company is super important. How do I maintain that despite people not physically being together? Unified communications is a phenomenal way to do that. And as the hybrid workforce continuing to grow in adoption, this is becoming a bigger and bigger concern for the executives. And so the bridge to that is the unified communication platform. So that's just another piece to that because, man, it's so important to have a healthy work culture, and things can slip through the cracks easily if you don't have visibility into your people. So I'll leave that there.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you both. I think it was very informative. The first question that we have from our guests is that this was such great information, but where do we get started?
So I can take a stab at that, Eli. So,
Sure.
from the partner side, I would encourage you to, reach out to, your trusted partner. Um, and, we usually encourage you to get started, with education, right? There's a lot of webinars and things offered from Intermedia just to get you educated about the platform and the offering. And then typically then from that point we like to help you, we like the effort to be very consultative, right? Like in the on-prem world, typically it was, this is what we sold, this is what we're doing. In the cloud world, we try to be much more consultative on what are the customers, business requirements here, and we listen to that first. So it's, where to get started is kind of to understand, talk to your people, talk to your business units, understand how they're working, what you want to get out of a new platform. And then from there, it would be bringing in, Intermedia and their expertise, and looking at a demo, doing an overview on the solution, and that's kind of a great way to get started.
Mhm.
Other things I'll say about, in terms of an actual project, something to keep aware of is your carrier services that you have in place today. You're going to want to understand what those terms are. Are you under a contract? Do you have to, and that kind of thing? Because you're gonna want to know that when you're moving to a new solution. There are options, with Intermedia to keep those cloud carriers that you have until those contracts in, and then you can, move over. There's a bring your own trunking option. Um,
Mhm.
but I would say to get started, I would encourage you to reach out to your trusted partner and work with a great manufacturer like Intermedia, is a great thing to do.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, just a bit, Alan, if you don't mind. And so, yes, this is a fully tailored solution, right? It's not a one size fits all. And so, to Alan's point, the consultative approach is necessary because you know the challenges in your business, at least many of them, right? We can perhaps help illuminate some other ones, perhaps. But I wanted to just mention that The real value of pursuing a path with intelx and the unified communication um, platform in general is, and this is a sticking point and a distinction between intelx and the rest, is that you get intelx on the phone with a local phone call, right? And so you're going to get either online or remote support, but intelx is going to be there for you. It's not, right, like, hey, sign on the dotted line and then call intermediate, call this vendor. Sure, we can help you, no doubt, but the beauty is you have somebody in your backyard, and that's not to be taken lightly. That's a really big piece of this. So getting started, what that looks like, that consultative approach, um, that business discussion that you'll be having, kind of like that business analysis, is going to help find the gaps in what's happening today in your organization, and then we'll be able to fill those gaps properly and solve problems, most importantly, in your organization. And because you have, intelx there with that one phone call, there's going to be kind of this white glove feel to how you get set up and ultimately get going. And then once you're up and running and going, then right, the relationship maintains, and now you have your trusted advisor right there with you on your journey over time, and it's only going to get better over time. So the demo is really important. You got to see how the solution can actually work in your environment. There has to be an obvious fit, right? We're not going to force it. So that demo is going to be pretty critical, that discovery session, so that we can show you the right things in the product that make the most sense for your business. So anyway, just wanted to add that there, Alan.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Mhm.
The other question that we have is, if we use Microsoft Teams, how can we or what do we do
Right.
to integrate with this?
Mhm. I could take a quick shot, Alan, if you like.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just say a 1, 2, then I'll have, maybe you can elaborate a little bit. So if you're a Teams shop and you love Teams, you want to keep using it, that's perfect. The good news is that the solution we're talking today integrates with Teams in a few different capacities. So number one, if you're using Teams and you're all set, right? You're quite happy, but you're noticing that the voice quality isn't up to par, or you're wanting to expand the capability set of Teams so that it's not just an internal tool, you can turn it external, make out those outbound calls, and start managing some of that customer relationship. Um, right, we can integrate with Teams to do that. So we can upgrade the voice quality. We can also embed the Elevate solution by intelx, right? That solution can just be dropped right into the Teams app, and so you can, right, use whatever you like from Teams. But with that approach, you would essentially be using the full powerful platform just in the Teams app. So depending on the way your organization utilizes Teams today, Teams can be quite sticky once it gets installed and deployed in your organization. But it's not all or nothing here, right? If you want to move away from Teams, of course, there's a path for that, but we can play nice with Teams. In fact, Intermedia is the premier partner for Microsoft Teams. We are certified with Teams on both the UC side, that's the internal piece, and the CC side, the contact center piece, that's the external piece. So we're one of the bigger players with Microsoft, and we have a great relationship with them, which is why we're one of the only ones that integrates this way with Teams. So that's just a quick 1, 2 on the Teams piece from my side. Alan, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, Eli. We've seen a big uptick in folks that are interested in using Microsoft Teams as a phone system, right?
Mhm.
And there's been a lot of traction with that. I think what they may not realize is what you just said, that Microsoft can be, if you don't have the expertise to administer Microsoft as a phone system and to sign up for a Microsoft calling
Right.
plan, to then have to call into Microsoft for support on the voice side, that can be a little tough. So what we like to do is, with the intermedia solution, we can sort of telephony enable Microsoft Teams, I like to say, and it's a way to still live in Teams. Users can fully live in Teams and use it for everything that you love today. But we've sort of added, the intermediate calling into it, so that everything is done, and then we can also leverage some of those additional calling features that we have with Intermedia in front of Teams. So it's just it's a great way to leverage Teams as your phone system, um, and it by adding Intermedia sort of as the calling plan solution in front of it. So we're seeing a lot of traction there, and there's definitely a great integration there. So
Right on. Well said.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. This was great. Hopefully, we can do another one, pick a different topic, and get all set up and do this again.
all right,
Um,
Looking
thank you,
forward to it.
Thank
thanks,
you. If
Eli.
anyone
Thanks,
needs
Carly.
anything, please just shoot us an email, and
Yes, yes.
the recording will be out soon. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye
so much.
bye.
Have a good one.